And share sound. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So thank you for attending the lab session. And yeah, let me ask you several questions first before we begin. Have you completed your essay assignment? Okay, cool. I also already saw several submission in the on Scale, so thank you. And also, have you started working on the tutorial? Okay, I see some of you already started. We also discussing with each other regarding the tutorial. That's okay, and also that's the purpose of having a tutorial to let you having an exercise at home, and then when you go to the lab, other than learning more technical aspects of the tutorial code, you can also use the tutorial session, the lab session, to ask questions with your classmates or even to the teaching team that is facilitating the tutorial session on site. And yeah, since there is also a student that requested for permission to not attending, therefore the session also recorded to Zoom and stream to YouTube. And yeah, let's just begin. But first of all, I think I need to change the color scheme first. Yeah, it's better. Hi. Yeah. So let's go check the tutorial material, and materials that we will refer to you all, like giving you an overview what you are going to work on in the tutorial, and then the remaining time that you for you all to practice. The tutorial is about Django, especially about the architecture of your code that you will follow. Yes, yeah, so in this tutorial, you will learn about how to follow one of the what do you call it? The pattern for organizing your code so that it follows the convention that already prepared by Django's developers. And by following the convention, you will have a way, well, not a way, but you will know where to put your code for implementing certain functionality of your web application. So you will learn about the MVT architecture, model, views, and template. And then you will also learn how to know how the HTML pages is generated from Django and returned back to your web browser, and also how to handle request handling by implementing a URL routing to map a request sent from the web browser to a function in your Django web application. Yeah, that's enough for the introductions, and let's. And yeah. Format one more thing. This tutorial will be like me demonstrating the flows, the statements or the instructions that written in the document. And if you haven't started the tutorial, you may feel free to mimic what I'm doing on the screen. But if you already started earlier from at your home from previous day, you can watch along or continue with your work in regards to the tutorial. So without further ado, I think that's all. Let's begin with the tutorial. Usually when you are developing a Python web application by using Django or other framework, the best practice is, as I mentioned before, you need to create what is called as virtual environment. let's say,
Azuri. How should I call you? Azuri.
If you want to create a new app, like let's call it an example app, then what you need to do is use Python. Wait a minute. Python global.
Then Amar Asri.
Right.
How should I call you?
Wait a moment.
Amar. Azra Batrisha. Azra.
So you need to create a virtual environment using the VENV Python built-in module.
Muhammad Fiko.
And
Fiko.
Wait a moment to let the creation finish.
Moza Abirafi. What should I call you? Moza. Okay. Raizas. What should I call you?
It's done.
I.
Now, why
AI.
we have to do this? It is related to how software packages are installed in your computer.
Okay, so
let's say currently I haven't enabled the virtual environment yet, but let's say I'm installing a package like in Python. There's a external package called request. I can install it, and once I've installed the package, it's available in my system-wide Python's installation. So you can see that there is the request package here, in addition with the other packages that is required by the Python's request module. But then, when developing a new application or a new project, it is possible that certain project doesn't need the dependency or the software package that has been installed system-wide in your own computer. Let's say I don't want to use request, but instead I want to use the URL lib3 here, which actually provides similar functionality to request.
Nicholas.
Yes, sir. I'm
Certainly,
present.
you can just use your system-wide Python installation, but it is better to have an isolated environment where you can have the software packages specific for your application. By doing that, you can isolate the dependencies without and ensure those dependencies, the software packages will not interrupt with the software packages that installed system-wide in your computer.
Oh, right. I saw some chat.
So
right.
Let's begin. So let's activate the virtual environment. And since the virtual environment is still empty, the PIP list returns an empty list.
Right?
And contrast this to when I'm still using the system-wide Python installation, where it contains several Python packages.
Oh, not here. Yeah. I'm sorry.
So we still right now we have an empty Python environment where we can install, for example,
Django. It's not here either. So yeah, I hope
the
recording will be happy to
the
all.
virtual
For
environment.
who not able to come here today.
And yeah,
is there anyone who
my
hasn't
point,
been mentioned?
Django here is only available in the virtual environment. And when I switch off the virtual environment and check the list of installed packages, there will be no Django.
And then, right.
Yep, there is no Django in the list of packages.
I should just write some notes here.
So
let me go through from you, Dylan. What's your full name again?
I often call this as the ceremony or the
Dahlan Pribadi.
introductory part whenever you have to start a Django project or a Python-based application project.
Already.
Then when you were taking the introductory programming courses, you just probably installed the software packages system-wide. But now, try to isolate your software dependencies or require software packages into the virtual environment. And use that during developing your Python-based project.
Right.
Any questions so far regarding the virtual environment?
Okay.
I remember last week somebody mentioned about Anaconda. So he or she encountered a problem where it's I kind of forgot, but somehow the Django cannot be installed.
We have to wear masks.
Anaconda is actually one example of virtual environment as well. But Anaconda is designed to be used for data scientists. So it's already been designed where the comments installed in Anaconda, provided in Anaconda, usually used to prepare the environment
and
for
then who else?
data science stuff like machine learning, statistics, and this kind of stuff. I'm not a fan of that. Therefore, it might have some specific procedures when installing Python packages that deviated from the standard approach in installing Python packages that is followed by the field Python's built-in virtual
asking this
environment.
because
Therefore, might be the cause Django cannot be installed in Anaconda, maybe.
Finalized.
Therefore, I really recommend you to just use the built-in virtual environment mechanism, which is
okay.
Python
Without further ado,
VENV
let's begin with the actual tutorial. Okay.
Okay.
So the first tutorial will be about.
I think I can proceed to the next section. Right, MTV, model view and template. I demonstrated this in previous class, but to put it simpler, every request that's sent from your web browser, and assuming the request is valid, can be delivered to your server or to your computer where you are running your Python Django app. Those requests in form of the URL and also the accompanying data package embedded in the request will be sent to Django web application process that already been listening to certain port. So your program as or the Python Django web application usually will can be accessed through certain port. By default, it's port 8000, right? Yep. Complex compared to Google Docs. And once your Python receives that request along with the data, it will be passed to the urls.py of your Django's project. From there, the urls.py will do what is called as the routing. So it checks the pattern of the URL in your request, whether it matches certain path, for example, /business or /to-do or /item. And when it found a match in your request, in the URL of your request,
you can also know the record of changes happened to the file. So you will know that whenever somebody made changes, the file
already been associated to handle that particular request.
The changes and when they made changes.
And those functions usually implemented in views.py.
Example.
And then in views.py, it performs some computation. We often call the views.py as the
since we also ask you to bring your own computing device.
What it's called? It contains the business logic part of the application because usually when we develop an application, it's associated with certain kind of business, right? For example, academic registration, that means the business is about academic registration. And in order to run that business, some features needs to be present, right? For example, to let student log into the application or to change his or her academic registration and so on. That's why it's often called as the business logic, because it contains the actual functionalities provided by your application.
You're using Python.
And then after in the views.py, when it runs a function to handle the received request, it might require data persistence. So maybe you will have to store or retrieve data from another data source. Very often the data source is a database system like a PostgreSQL database or SQLite database. You will learn about database later on in what is called the database course. But you can view database as a central storage that will contain your data in the application. And for now, the storage is stored as a file. So you don't have to install database systems that I mentioned before, like PostgreSQL or MySQL.
Also, in this semester, we are going to use as well.
An online for this week, you only need to use the file-based database that already provided by Django, which is called as SQLite. And yeah, if the view require data persistent, like storing or retrieving data from the database, you may also call the data model that have already been defined.
So let me give you an example on how
the view that you or the business logic already
in my own
PC, some data processing.
So
eventually the results needs to be prepared into a web page, right? Open for there is another part of the terminal application called template. Template is collection of pages that usually will be delivered back to the web browser. And since it is called as template,
so let's say you are using Windows,
have some variables
and
also
you can already install Git in your
values derived
verify
from
whether it has been
the
installed or
computation
not.
results happening in the views.py or in the business logic part of the application. Once
if Git already been installed,
once the template already been filled with the required values,
if you already confirm that Git already been installed, then you can follow through the tutorial.
You can send
for
it back
example,
to the browser by using
the first
the
instruction
function.
in the document is about
So
creating a new
that's
repository,
a bit
right?
overview about the
So,
MVT architecture. It's called architecture
in order
because
to create a new repository, let's say
that's
we
you
go
with
to
certain
a folder,
convention, right? Similar to architecture in real life. So if you think about architecture, like you think about minimalist architecture or oriental architecture, you will see that
let's
every
say I
building
want
that
to
following
create
certain architecture
a
will
new
have
repository. Let's say
some
let's
kind
say
of
call it the
commonalities
repository.
among them. Let's
Awesome.
take one example like
Favorite games.
If you see the
This is just
architecture
an
at,
example, okay? The one that you have to
what is called again?
Do in your tutorial is
in many mosques
the
or
instructions described in the
churches.
document. This is only for
Usually
demonstration.
at the center point,
So this is a
focus
new
point
folder called
in
Awesome Favorite Games.
religious
And
buildings
then,
is at the frontmost part of
in
the
that directory,
room. Usually, if
in
in
the
a
newly
mosque,
created directory,
there will be a platform
Git
where the imam
so the
or
comments are
religious
Git
leader will
referring
preach
to
their
the
sermon.
executable,
Similarly,
and
in
then
church,
in it
the
is
front
the
part will
option
like to be
in
the place where
the Git program.
the father
And then the dot
will
is
deliver their
referring
sermon as
to
well. It's
the
similar, and
path
that kind of
where
architecture is
the
full
repository
in
will be
many
initialized.
religious buildings because that's
And usually,
the
both
way
in
how it is designed.
Windows
Usually.
and Linux and Mac
Similar
OS,
to that, in
dot is
application,
referring to the current active
we can
directory.
also find
So
certain
if you are
patterns to that.
currently in this directory,
In Python,
let's say workspace, CSUI, PBP,
for every
PBP, also favorite games, then dot is referring to that
request that are coming to the web application, it is usually handled by the URL.py. So it's the center point that will handle every request coming into the application.
The Git repository,
And its purpose only for parsing requests. Do not put any business logic in the URL.py.
If you are using
can
Windows,
also do that, but if we
try
follow
to
that
go into
the architecture, like the MVT architecture here,
if
we can
it works,
ensure
then
that
it means
every
your
component
Git
has their
repository
own
has been
purpose
initialized in the
and
directory.
will not having an
If you cannot
overlapping
change
functionality
directory
with
into
other
.git directory,
This
then
is to ensure that
something wrong must have happened
your
during the
application,
initialization
your
process.
code, have a
Up to this
separation
point,
of concern,
are you following? Or is there any
and that
question
will let
before I
you
continue?
maintain your code easier
Okay,
later
cool.
in the future. And you will learn about that,
and you can also verify if
code
you
quality
created the
maintenance in the
you can
next
also verify typing
advanced programming course.
and it will produce
But yeah,
messages like detailing.
in short,
what is the name
try to
of
follow
active
the
branch.
convention that already dictated or
So,
provided by Django's
default,
developers.
every
But if you really do have
repository
specific
changes
reason to
will
deviate from the
provide you
architecture, yeah, make
what is,
sure you have
called as branch.
good reasons to do that.
Let's view it like
So,
a tree.
in case you haven't started the tutorial, you can follow the instructions written in the document. So the instruction said that you need to log into your account on GitHub and open this repository.
Let's imagine you see a tree, and usually a tree will have a trunk, right? A big trunk, and then the tree will also have several branches coming out of the trunk.
Yeah.
Now, the main branch here can be viewed as the trunk of a tree that will represent
I'm sorry.
source code that you are developing using.
Thank you for reminding me.
Well, not.
But wait, where do I put the streaming part? No, it's already been muted. Yeah, just need to disable it. Okay, thank you, Julian, for reminding me. Sorry for the technical issues. I'm making sure that my voice are not echoing or duplicated to multiple input sources, because for those who are attending the Zoom session from within this lab, please mute your microphone, because maybe since you're also listening to the audio input from my mouth, it will overlap with the audio that you heard from the Zoom, and I think that's a problem. So if you are looking at my shared screen via Zoom from this lab, from this room, please make sure that your microphone is muted. Okay, let's go back to the tutorial. Okay, it's black. I mean, it's too dark. Let me change the color scheme first. Appearance. Yep, I think this will do. Cool. So, the PA already prepared a good example that you can use for your Django web application project, for your tutorial, or even for your other project as well. So feel free to use this template. But the one way to use this template is to click this button. There's a button about use this template. And if you haven't started yet the tutorial, you can initialize your Django web application project by using that button. Use this template button. So let me click it, and it will ask you to create the repository. Yeah, let's say I just used anything that's recommended by GitHub, like Figlant Pancake, or you can write it properly, like CSGE 602. What is the code again? 602022 tutorial. And this is my tutorial. This is my repository for storing my code doing the tutorial. And do not need to include our branches, although you can also do that, but just leave it out. And after that, create repository from template. Yeah, no worries. I've seen that. Okay, so if you have done that, creating a new repository using the template, the account will have a new repository or whatever the repository is. In my case, it's CST, so to go to tutorial. And yeah, the record, I mean the repository will only contain a single commit because what GitHub does is just simply copy paste the latest version and initialize it as a new repository. And then, yeah, it's still based on the latest code on the code template repository. And yeah, if you understand Indonesian, you can read the Indonesian version. But if you understand English, and I suppose this is also the requirement for those who are attending the international class, you should read the English version of the document. Basically the same. And yeah, it contains the first part of the tutorial actually. It contains the instruction how to initialize the repository and clone it and prepare the filter environment. Okay. Now, if you are working from faculty's lab, you need to clone using the HTTPS URL to your repository. So if you are working from this room, the Wi-Fi hotspot around the faculty, you can only clone the repository from GitHub using this HTTPS URL. And yeah, let's just do that. Copy, get clone, and then clone it to a certain location in the file system. So yeah, right now it's still empty. If I check the log, it only contains a single commit, usually written by yourself on GitHub. So GitHub will automatically create the commit under using your name. And since this is a template, you don't have to initialize a new Django project. So what you need is just install the packages required to develop and run a Django project. And those packages are defined in the requirements.txt file. Here, there are several packages, such as obviously there is Django here, and other is also the request, white noise, and other packages. Those packages required by Django in order to run the application that already been constructed on top of Django's framework. Although when you install Django using PIP, when you initialize your environment for the first time, you may only specify Django, white noise, and maybe one or two other libraries. But then the requirement.txt will contain all packages required by the packages that you explicitly install, and also the packages that required by the packages you install explicitly. So it's possible that you only install Django and white noise, but then in each project, in each packages, in Django and white noise, they might require other packages as well, and those packages will also be included into the requirements.txt. And to generate this requirements.txt, you can use PIP freeze. And the result of PIP freeze can be fit into a new text file. Or you can just copy paste it. You can also do that. Okay, so let's start by creating the virtual environment. Okay. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to switch to this new virtual environment by using the activate script in the env directory. And yeah, try to ensure that you already enable the virtual environment by checking the front of your shell. If your shell contains a env string, that means you already activated the virtual environment. But if you didn't find any env string in your prompt, well, maybe you haven't enabled the virtual environment. And yeah, as usual, don't forget to install the not that one, requirements.txt. By using pip install with option -r, it specifies the input file that will be had by the pip install command. There's a few more steps to complete the installation process. Yep. And to check whether the Python already successfully installed or not, you can Python manage.py and server. If Django already installed, it will produce these following log messages. You can check the current web application template by accessing this URL http 127.0.0.1 port 8000. Yeah. So yeah, hello world. So and that's an empty hello world web application using Django. Any questions so far, or questions about the process to clone the template to your own repository? I guess no, everyone were able to do that. So cool. Now, there is no whiteboard here. This might be a new stuff for you all, but let me explain to you how Django organize the code of the web application. So let me go back to the terminal. It's better just to use text editor here. I'm gonna switch to solarized light, I guess. Yep. And zoom it in. Zoom. Yeah. Okay. And it took a while. Okay. So in Django, we have the concept of project and app. So a project here, I think I can just write it in the README. Yep. Lab notes. So Django has these two concepts: project and app. Application, shorthand of application. Project is the main. Let's view it like the main stage or the main container for the web, for your application. It's like let's use this analogy. Project is like an empty patch of land. So if you have land, for example, and you want to build a building in a land, well, obviously you need to prepare it before, like purchasing it from other people, or from other means. And then once you already have a certain land, let's say just an empty patch of land, you can build pretty much anything, right? As long as you already have that land legally. Project, the Django's project is similar to that. You will create an empty space that will contain your apps, that will contain one or more buildings. Whereas the app is the building that will be built on the land. So Django's project will initialize the base code where you can build your app on top of it. So when you initialize an empty Django's project, let's say back to the Django admin command, and then you start a project and you give it a name, another project. Wait, should use underscore, and you see the another project directory. Django will initialize the manage.py script and also another directory containing the base code that you can use. Well, not you can use, that you will use to connect with the rest of the application that you built in this project. And at this in the template, you already been given a Django project, or a project underscore Django. That's the default project that already been created by the teaching assistants for you to use. And this Django project already containing one single application called example underscore app. So Django by default will prepare you with a project that contain the initial base code, and that base code will contain configuration related settings, .py file, and also the topmost URL router, the urls.py, that you will modify whenever you created a new app on that project. What's the instruction again in the tutorial? Right. So you need to create an app. So in the project, you can use Django admin, start app, and the name of the app that you want to create. In this example, you are asked to create a wishlist app. So yeah, let's do that. Now, Django will create a new folder in your project. So previously, the project only contained code for the virtual environment, the env directory, and the initial app created by the TA, the example_app, and then also the code for the project itself, the Django project, located in the project_Django, and other files and folders like the templates templates contain the template for your web pages that you can use when defining a custom page in Django app school. Okay, so let's open the directory containing the new app and check the models UI. Okay, the models of UI here will contain Python code that represents your data that will be stored in the application. So in this example, let me open something. JetBrains toolbox. Where is it again? Okay. For example, if you want to build a wishlist application, and as the user, you want to describe the item that you want to purchase, right? So at minimum, you want to store the information about the name, price, and also the description of the item that you want to purchase. So in Django, you can define a new class called, well, you can call it anything, but that class needs to extend needs to extend this model class from models package. So Django can recognize that this class is a data model, and Django will have some procedures during the initialization process of your application that lets Django to use this data representation in Python code to store and retrieve your data located in the data source, such as a database system. And then, so you have defined a class that extends the model class. The next thing you need to do is to declare the attributes or the kind of data that you want to store. So in this class, you need to define the name, the price, and also the description. And then you also, for each data attribute, you specify the data type. So it's similar to when you were learning about Java or Kotlin in previous programming course. In Java or Kotlin, when you create a class, you need to specify the name of the attribute, right, along with the data type. In Python, well, to be exact, in Django, when you create a data model, the rules defined by Django is you need to define the data attributes as the variables inside this class. And then each variable needs to be assigned with a value. And that value actually representing the data type of the variable. So it's a bit
strange. I mean, if you already getting used with a strongly typed language like Java or Kotlin, this might be look strange because whenever we want to declare a data type, usually we declare it after the variable's name, right? But in Django, the data type is rather than defined, it is assigned to the variable name. So yeah, it's a bit strange, but that's the rule on how Python works. So if we are using Python, not the Python works, it's a rule dictated by Django. So if we want to use Django and comply with their rules, we have to follow this rule. So item name will contain the name, and to represent a name of an item, we declare it as a field to contain characters. Similarly, for the price itself, we assign it with an integer field. So the item price will only contain integer values later on. And the description is assigned with the text field. Similar to char field, but text field is can contain larger amount of text. So that's the minimum when defining a model in Python. To this point, explanation about model. Any questions? Yeah, if you already completed this at home, well, that's cool. Now, if you have defined your model, the next thing to do is to set up your database. Where is my terminal again? Oh yeah, this is my terminal. Yeah, okay, I forgot. Python, well, not Python, but in Django, if you just created a new Django project and app in the project itself, Django will use a database called SQLite. So SQLite is a database systems, but instead of running separately as another process, and usually it is running on a server, SQLite just run as a single process in your own computer, and the data contained in the SQLite is stored as a file, as a single file to be exact. So if you check the directory, you will see that there is a file named db.sqlite3. So that is the SQLite database that will be used by your Django app. And the instructions in the tutorial is to run make migrations. Okay. So let's just invoke it. Oh. No changes detected. Interesting. What happened? In the wish list, I think. Wait a minute. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So let me make sure that I have written the models. Yep, I did. And then, oh yeah, maybe I. Okay. db.sqlite. So let me start from 0 about the database, and invoke Python's manage.py make migration with s, right? Okay. Right. So you just run the migration process, and if you encounter this warning, the static file .w04. It means that
the Python the Django app wasn't able to find this following folder, the static folder. So you can make a static directory, and maybe it resolved the issue. Yep, apparently so. So yeah, that's the solution if you encounter the warning. But yeah, if you want to learn more about why this warning happened, you can check the issue tracker in the template repository. So yeah, Django in the provided template will try to find a file in the static directory. So in the given template, it requires a file, a CSS file, but currently the CSS file doesn't exist yet in the static directory. So the Django project will complain. In order to resolve that, you can follow this simple solution. Just create a static directory, and yeah, it will, the warning message will just not popping up again. So next thing to do is manage the py migrate. I think okay. What migrate does is it passes through all models in your Django project, and it reads through every migrations you pilot in across apps, and for each migration, migrate will execute it to the database. So initially, in a present initialized Django project, it already contains one application, the admin page. So if we migrate script here, it will initialize the admin pages, and the database requires the admin page functionality, like the table of data that will store the username and password to access the admin dashboard in the application. In this example, apparently I forgot to include the apps. So yeah, whenever you created a new app, you need to ensure that the new app is defined in the list of installed apps. So if you have created a new app called wishlist, then make sure that wishlist app is also defined in the installed apps. Yeah, because if it is not defined, then when you want to make migrations and migrate, Django will not recognize the application, so your model will not be initialized into the database. So here, while I amend the settings to py, now Django recognizes the new app, the new business app, and it can generate the migration script by using the make migrations. And the content of that make migration script for most of the time, and usually almost every time, you do not need to modify this file because it's auto-generated by Django. So unless you really have a specific reason to do it. So please do not modify the migration script because this is also generated by Django.
And the code itself is interesting. I mean, it contains operations that will be executed by Django when interfacing or when operating with the target database. So if you are using the default SQL database, then Django will execute these operations, like to create the database that will contain the required fields to store the information about the item in the business. And since these scripts, the migration scripts are generated automatically, well, not automatically, it is generated by Django, you will also need to execute migrate to run the new migration scripts to the database. So previously the database already been set up to contain the data tables for storing the and related features. But now it runs the script to initialize the data table for containing information about the wishlist items. And yeah, you can have an empty data table for now, but you can also define a fixture or prepared entries that will be available in your database. So let's do that. Go to wishlist, mkdir fixtures. And in fixtures, you create initial wishlist data.json. So this fixture or the prepared data will be always inserted into your database whenever you run the migration script. So if you require some data to be initialized into the database when the application is running for the first time, you can use this approach by setting up, by creating a data fixture in the application. And well, I'm sorry, it's not during the migration, but you need a separate command to load the fixture data. So Python manage.py load data, then the initial wishlist data. Right. It's supposed to be this command. So wishlist fixtures initial. And those data will be inserted into the database. Any questions so far up to the part where we initialize the model? Okay. Yeah, we still have 2 more sections left. Yeah, let me ask you something. Have you completed the tutorial before attending this live session? Oh, most of you already completed the tutorial. Okay, that's cool. But later on, after the tutorial, you will also have a programming assignment that will be announced later. I need to check the site. Usually, there will be a new assignment here in the red color. The specification for your programming assignment will be pushed by the TAs, and it will pop up in this assignments column. So yeah, maybe it's still under the translation process. So yeah, stay tuned for the assignment announcement. Okay.
Yeah. Let's take a break for a moment. So I see somebody. Educie. Wow. Yeah. Who is this? Educie. I am Edu. Is Edu participant of this course or in regular class? In regular. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, he got it incorrect. I mean, in the what is called the GitHub Actions, the continuous integration platform provided by GitHub. Maybe I can explain this to him. How can I view the full version of the file? Right. Yeah, let's say you want to follow what Edu is doing right now in his lab. He attempted to develop the business data after the application is deployed. However, we seems to forget that the comments defined in the workflow in the YML file here is only running on GitHub server. So when he attempted to type the SPY data, JSON, this one ran successfully. Well, it ran successfully, but only in GitHub server, only to his app that is currently running in GitHub server. So after he deployed to Hero 2, the data on Hero 2 will be empty because this load data comment is not executed on Hero 2. The solution actually is simple. To give you an overview how Heroku works, Heroku expected about prop file. And in prop file, we define one or more processes that will run certain command from the given source code that is pushed to Heroku. So in the example, there are two processes, web and release. Web is the default process that is expected to be present in every application developed on Heroku. So Heroku will expect at least the file contain a single web process. And the web process contains the command that will run your application on Heroku. So in this example, your application will run using the unicorn application server. Your application will be run, so the manage.py stuff, like the manage.py run server or just to run your web application, it will be handled by this unicorn application server. However, Heroku can also have additional process or release that will be invoked before the web application and the web process is run by Heroku. So in the release process, usually we call the migration script by using Python SPY migrate. So if you want to help Edu to fix this problem, to load this texture data, what you need to do is after the Python SPY migrate is executed, you need to add additional command to load the texture data. So the data based on Heroku will get the texture data. So yeah, that's the solution for Edu for whatever he's trying to do right now. Okay, I think that's all regarding the setup until defining model for a Django application. Any questions before we continue to the next part? Nothing? Okay, systems, Zuhal, right? Is that Zuhal? Yeah. Gimana mau lanjutin? Sampai model, sampai model. Iya, karena saya juga sampai nyari untuk yang partisipasi dulu, karena ada satu ujian. Biasa pakai VI, tadi saya demo ini pakai VI, kode ini.
Oh, nggak ada ya?
Di terminal.
Oh, saya pakai ini, Visual Studio langsung.
Saya ada VS Code juga sih, saya buka, tapi kan saya lebih biasa pakai VI tadi, saya pakai VI. Kalau mau pakai VS Code juga apa?
Ini Bapak udah buat ya?
Udah sampai wishlist dari gitu.
Oh.
Paling minta saya izin sign up dulu. Oh iya. Still apa ya.
Jadi nanti saya jalanin Python Manager PY-nya langsung aja.
Lewat terminal aja, ini ditutup.
Oh ini berarti belum nyala dong virtual environment.
Kalau yang di VS Code belum nyala.
Jadi ini nyalain foldernya di mana?
Tadi itu saya pakai terminal. Oh, ini udah nyala ya?
Oh ini udah nyala.
Iya. Jadi tadi kalau mau ya tadi pakai ke terminal.
Ini pakainya sama aja Mbak sama terminal?
Apa?
Pakainya sama aja kayak terminal?
Sama kok ini. Ini cuma bedanya PowerShell dibungkus Microsoft Terminal.
So for the next step, we're gonna make a application called wishlist by running the Python command Python manage.py startup wishlist. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So we're gonna open the use.py on the wishlist folder to return the request that we want. So in this case, we're gonna return wishlist.html. So we're gonna just write the same code on here. So this code basically will pass the parameter request and return the wishlist HTML. So before that, we're gonna have to make the HTML page. in a wishlist folder. We're going to create a template. And then we're going to copy the code in the website, inside the templates. It's like this. So this code will extend the base HTML that we create later on. And then this will return a table creating the item name, item price, and description. And then after that, we're gonna add the URLs to the wishlist items, to the show wishlist in a new file called urls.py. So here we're gonna create a new URL. So the path will be an empty string. It will return the show wishlist in the app name wishlist. So it's basically gonna return this to the index path. Then after that, we also have to register the wishlist application in the root folder in project Django. And here, this will connect the wishlist application to the root folder, to the project Django. And then after, we can just run the server. Ini base HTML-nya harus ambil dulu. Base HTML-nya harus ambil di tab duluan.
Iya, tapi salah nggak ada makanya baru kayak gini aja.
So we just run the server. So here we're just gonna run the server. Then show this list. Apa? Udah sama. Sama.
Jadi berfuse. Jadi kamu berfuse untuk sharing list.
Sama.
Wait. The environment. Apps are let's check the code again. Let's start from the let's do into the list URLs into the project URLs. Okay. List and go to this list. And check the URLs again. Django URL desktop, that's not a problem. Wishlist.view, show wishlist. Then check the views. Show with list. Okay, let's try again.
Oh,
Oh, okay. So I think you haven't.
yeah, I thought it's auto save.
Okay.
Okay, the next we're gonna connect the model with a view and templates. So after we create our models and we create our view, we must display it to the user with the template that we have just created. For implement it, we're gonna have to modify the views.py that we have just created with this code. I will explain the code later on. So what is basically this code is says in this line of code, it said it will get all of the item wishlist object that we're gonna get the all of the object in our models. In this case, the model is item wishlist. Before the step before we already load the data with the fixtures and we're gonna get all of the data with this line of code. And this variable is gonna tell Django that we're gonna send this data, send this context into the wishlist.html by the k value pairs. So what is basically this context? This context is a dictionary, like we have just learned in the programming foundations. We're gonna store the data wishlist item into the key list underscore item, and that's what we're gonna use in the wishlist.html, because we say that we're gonna have a data with key list underscore items. Okay, and after that, first. Okay, and after that in HTML we're gonna fill this name with our names. So why we use a double curly bracket here? That is because Django have templating syntax for our Django application. For the variables, we're gonna have to cover it with a double curly bracket. Let's say we have list item and we have to cover it with a double curly bracket here. And also we're gonna have some special syntax that we will cover later on in this course, that like if the if is have syntax like this, and we gotta cover it later on, but it's just like a warm for you. Okay, that's why we're gonna have a double curly bracket here for the name. And why the name is came from is it came from the context that we just paste into. And you see that this is the key with name, and we're gonna use it same as we just defined in the ps.py. Let's say that I change it into name 123, and you're gonna see that this is not working because it's different from the context that we just defined before. If we define in this context is name 123, we're gonna say it's name 123, name 1232 either. name. Oh, we forget to pass the context here. My bad. Yes, after we create the context, we should tell the render function that we pass this context into the wishlist HTML by passing it into the third parameters like this. And you will see that it works just fine. Okay. For the next, we're gonna have to looping the list item that we just defined in the context. Why? Because that you see that in the fish.py, we get all of the object of item wishlist. That item wishlist is like a kind of array of object of item wishlist 1, 2, and 3 like that. That's why we're gonna have to loop it, iterate it over the variable that we have just defined before. In this case, is the list item. Okay, we're gonna let's see if it's working. Yeah, it's work like this fine. Okay. I told you earlier that the list underscore item here is the variable that we use to get all of the object of the item wishlist. It came from fields.py that we said that list underscore item here key have a value data underscore wishlist underscore item, which will get all of the object of item wishlist. That's why we're gonna have to define it with list underscore item, not like for example, I will type it and it will not work. It will empty because it's not defined in our context before. Okay. Okay. Next step is, yeah, that's just all for the tutorials. And after that you have completed this tutorial, please add, commit, and push the change you have made to your GitHub repository. And the final word, don't hesitate to ask and always learn something new. You can Googling it, Stack Overflow it, check the YouTube, and don't worry, the expert is also Googling it too. Okay. So don't worry, we are coding it. If we don't know, we just Google it. Okay. Okay, thank you. And this gonna this will put a reading resource if you want to continue reading about Django, about Django on TV, and something like that. Thank you. Any questions? Oh yeah, maybe I will explain the why is item underscore name. The attribute here is like we just defined it in models.py here. It said that we have attribute item underscore name, underscore price, and description. That's why we're gonna have to define the attribute that we want to display to the HTML file with the defined models that we have just created. Okay. For this other template syntax, we're gonna cover it on later on this course.
Yeah, if there are any questions, just let us know. We are going to cover the working out.
Okay, I think I can stop the recording now. So thank you everyone um, for those who are participating remotely. I'm going to stop the Zoom session and also the live streaming. So bye bye, and I will see you in the next class online class session next Tuesday. Bye bye.